Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
It is time to play.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Let's go!
A shot of entertainment to the head.
No doubt.
Sit back, relax,
Put your drinks up!
and enjoy the entertainment.
Okay.
Now we come to the payoff.
Let's rock.
Welcome, everyone, to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I'm Everett Lee. Quick shout-out to everyone who follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett Lore Squirrely and Facebook.com/Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up. And, of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of the Everett Lee Show. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, got a great podcast tonight. I have a guest on that has not been on Everett Lee Show podcast for quite a while, man. I want to give a nice warm welcome to the host of Wrestle Popcast and Robyn Nilsson Presents Files 13. I want to welcome back to the podcast after a long hiatus away, Robyn Nilsson. What's up, man?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on, man. It's been a long time. I've just been a busy guy.
I know. You are busy. You are busy. I'll tell you one thing that makes you real busy is all the guests you got coming on, that comes on for Wrestle Popcast and Files 13. It's crazy, man, because during the week I'm sitting there looking at Podcast City Network. I'm working on my show. I'm working on everyone's show, getting social media out there, updated website, and looking at all the content coming in for podcastcity.net, and then here you come, boom, you hand me an episode, and then an hour later, boom, another episode. You throw 3 on my lap in one night. Sometimes, man, it's like, damn.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy, man. I'm just getting guest after guest, man. Shoot, maybe I should take a little break for a while since I've interviewed over 295 guests.
Is that how many guests you have? Because I never really seen you count or have a count on episodes and stuff. I was just wondering. I was going to ask you one day and say, hey, how many podcasts?
I looked at it. Yeah, I looked at it last time. It was like 290. I have 290 episodes.
290 episodes? God dang,
yes,
man.
Sir.
Congrats. That is.
I know it's just amazing, and I know I keep on giving you all these episodes and stuff, but it's just fun. I just like interviewing and learning different things each way I go.
Yeah, that's what it's about, man. It's like getting guests. I know when you get a guest or guest hits you up. I know one night I was sitting there talking to you, and we're sitting there talking, FaceTiming. You're like, camera goes off, you're like, hey, hold on a second, and then you're like, I got a message, and you're like, someone wants to come on a podcast, hold on, and then you're like, okay, I'm good, and then it's like, hold on again, and you go off, and then you're like, okay, all right, scheduling interviews. It's like people are reaching out to you. How do you feel about that, with people actually reaching out and saying, hey, I want to come on your podcast, I want to promote this going on, or I want to do this and just talk about things? How do you feel about that?
Hey, I like it. Like I said, I have interviewed over 290 people. I've been doing this for about like 2 years, and it's great because I just get word of mouth. Because every time I have somebody on, they enjoy it and stuff. They said, I have the, great fun, coming on your show. It's neat to talk about other subjects besides wrestling, which I do on my podcast. I'll talk about, how they got into business and, their memorable moments. But I like to also push it to the other side, what they enjoy outside the ring, like hobbies, any other great stuff. And it makes the guests feel more relaxed, and they really enjoy it, because they'll be like, something, I'm glad I never get a chance to talk about what I like besides wrestling. Thank you for that. And then, and also I go to like different wrestling promotions everywhere and stuff. And I get people coming up to me going, hey, aren't you Robyn Nelson from Wrestle Podcast? It's like, yeah. And, there's a lot of people I don't know, it's like, or people come up to me, it's like, oh, okay.
That's great. That's great.
And
now, when you're
go ahead.
When you get a guest, say you contact a guest or a guest contacts you and they want to come on, you set the date, you set the time and everything. How do you prepare for that guest? How do you prepare? What do you do? Do you already know that guest off already and you already know what you're going to ask? Or do you go ahead and jump in, do some research, get the notes ready, and then you fire off from there?
It depends on the guest. If I'm not real familiar with the guest I'm having on that I want to share the story, because I like to share stories of, wrestlers in the indies, I like to get their, story out if they appeal to me, If I'm not quite sure who, I don't know who they are, I'll go and, look all over social media, do research on their matches, find out what they enjoy outside the ring, and then, talk to them a little bit to, fill them out to make it, more comfortable between us when I do my shows, instead of being awkward going, what should I ask next? But if I know the wrestler real well and, for a long time, I really don't need to take notes because I know what to ask. I know what they like. I know how to, steer the show to make it really good to get their story out there.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's awesome how you do that and how you already know the guest, you already know what to ask, and then doing the research and stuff. Has there ever been a guest, and I've had this before, I had this actually a few weeks ago, a guest where you don't really have nothing on them, and where do you go with questions?
Well, if they don't have nothing on them, if I don't see anything on like YouTube or anything about them, I will pry in their social media. If they have like Facebook or Twitter, I'll pry and just scroll down there and find certain things that appeals to me to ask that question, and just go down there, and then you like take notes on it. So when I have them on, they'll be like, hey, how'd you know about this and this? Because I'm not that much on YouTube or whatever. Basically what you need to do is just go look if they have social media, just go on there and see what they like and, what their matches are, or, especially ones who are just starting out. That's only had one or two matches, starting out. You just got to look in there and see where they trained at. Just look at some of their matches and stuff that they do, and that's how you do it when you can't really find somebody. Or another way to do it too, if you can't find anything, is you look at some of the wrestlers or their mutual friends they've worked with, and go talk to them, to get some information, or they'll steer you the right way to, get that correct research so you can have that successful podcast.
Okay. I've never really thought it that way. I never really thought about asking the guest, his friends, and about some information and stuff. And speaking of friends, Mr. Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast is in the Twitch chat. He says, hello, Everett Lee, and your guest, the one and only Mr. Brother Love of Wrestling, Mr. Robyn Nelson, Wrestle Podcast. And he says, big props to my friend Robyn, killing the pods.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. David C. Russell. Rock on, brother. Keep on doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
He's probably sitting there smiling. He's probably getting all excited. He's probably going, oh, yes, I wish I was in this conversation. Dang it. Oh, man, I'm jumping for joy right now.
He probably is. He probably is. Yes, sir, he said. But David, just like Damien said a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago, it's just me and Everett tonight.
Oh, you gotta love Damien. See, Damien Saint is a great, pro wrestling manager. He's managed a lot of great people, especially he's managed this 7-foot giant named Paxton Calloway over at Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling. They Denham Blevins, who runs that, paired him up with Paxton Calloway, and you need to check out some matches. He's a big boy, and recently he was at the WWE Training Center training and learning because they were eyeing him. And when Damien Saint is with him, he makes Paxton look good. Damien Saint, I have a lot of great things. He's a great guy. He's a great manager. He's also refereed a lot of matches too, and he's outside of Chicago. And he's a great friend, and I got to know him pretty well. I consider him like a friend, not like an acquaintance or anything. He's just a cool all around guy.
Mm-hmm. He is. I love talking. I love talking with Damien. I had him on a couple weeks ago. I hit him up a month ago when I was preparing for guests to have, and I was talking with him. I actually hit him up. It was during WrestleMania weekend, during WrestleMania 35. I was sitting there watching the Hall of Fame, and remember the incident where Bret Hart got jumped by that crazy idiot that jumped him? And then the funny thing about that is afterwards when he got arrested, did you see Ronda Rousey's husband co-cock him? Yeah. I got on Twitter there. And I was looking at the stuff that people are putting out there on him and just what happened. And I sent out some things to people on Messenger there. I messaged people. I was like, dude, Bret Hart got jumped at the Hall of Fame. And I hit Damien up. And Damien was like, dude, he's like, I was at a show tonight and someone tried to jump one of the workers there. I was like, what? And he's like, and in some other place, it was like he's like, was it a full moon out tonight? Because people jumping a barricade is jumping talent. It was just crazy. And so I was talking with Damien, and I asked him, I was like, what you haven't had you on my podcast one-on-one. I know you did Deleted Wrestling Podcast, and you've done ELS Uncut. I was like, why don't you come on Everett Lee's show? We'll just, shoot shit. And he said, yeah, book it. So I had him come on a couple weeks, and it was just great. He's a really good guy. And when you went to, has it been about 2 years or a year since you went to, it was last year, All In, up in Chicago. And you went to StarCast, and you met Damien there. He was there doing a, was it EHF? Show, or he was doing something. He was doing a show there, and you met up with him. How was that?
Oh, it was pretty cool, man. It was just neat how we first met. It felt like, we knew each other. We weren't like complete strangers. It was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So, I got to talk to him a little bit, get to know him. And then for dinner, he came up to meet my friend David and I, David Stockwell. And he met us at the Tilted Kilt for dinner with him and his wife, and we had a great conversation. Eating dinner and stuff. It was a blast. Finally meet Damien.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just talked to him on social media or called him. And then when I found out he was going to be part of Battle on the Border, that got really cool. So
nice.
Every time he's because he's part of Battle on the Border now. Mm-hmm. But every time he comes up there, we shoot the shit.
That's cool. That's cool. He's a good guy. I love talking with him. I love just everything he does. And I was teasing about how I couldn't find really nothing on wrestling on his social media when he was using that anonymous message app thing. It filled up his whole timeline. And I even mentioned on the podcast, I said, dude, I was trying to look up some stuff on you, and all I seen was anonymous said, and he explained that, which is trip, which is like the new thing. I'm assuming that people use now. But wasn't he, when you cut the famous promo with Tony Schiavone there at StarCast. Damien, was he there with you at StarCast too, or because he mentioned some things? He mentioned how you should do the promo where you could go up and do promos with Tony Schiavone, and you did like a whole 180, but it turned out like fucking fantastic, man.
Oh, it was great. He told me that. Him and David both told me that. I kind of slipped in Wrestle Podcast as well, and Tony Schiavone really said Wrestle Podcast on it as well, which was pretty cool. And I'd like to thank Damien and David for that. And the cool thing is, on Tony Schiavone's podcast, he picked out his favorite 4 promo interviews he did with the people at StarCast, and me and David were one of the 4. And he played our promo interviews on his podcast live. And the thing about it is, me and David didn't know about that. So one of my friends called me saying, "Hey, Rob, you're on Tony Schiavone's podcast." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I saw him at StarCast, but I'm not on this. I'm not on this." He goes, "Go listen to it." And boom, he played my promo, me doing it with him, and David's promo as well. Which was pretty cool. And then from there, David and I went to Nashville to the NWA 70th anniversary show, and we bumped into Tony again, and Tony totally remembered us, man. It was pretty cool.
That is awesome, man. That is cool. That is cool. What do you say? What did he say to you when you ran into him again?
Oh, he said, "Hey, that's Robyn, the man with no gimmick."
Damn. That's great. that's
and he was standing there with Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette was just like Cornette was just like rolling his eyes. It was hilarious.
That's great. That's great.
Oh,
I met Cornette. I met Jim Cornette back in July. It was around, or June. It was June of last year. That wrestling event came to Orlando, and I was listening to Cornette's podcast, and Cornette said, "If you want a chance to see me in the state of Florida, I'm going to be at this event, and this is the only event I'm going to be at in Florida for this year." I had to go.
Yeah.
I had to go. I was supposed to have a friend of mine go with me, but he ended up not going because he had to work. And I sitting there, my wife bought the ticket and photo op already and didn't tell me until the last minute, and I was like, I gotta go. So I drove down the highway to hell, I-4 to Orlando, through Orlando. Thank God for GPS. I got there, found a place to park, got in, and went down, and it seemed like forever in this hotel where they were having at this hotel or place. And eventually I got down to where it was at, and when I walked in there, I was like, wow, this is great. And then I walked over and seen Cornette and talked with him for a minute, and I was wearing a Jimmy Hart shirt because of Jimmy Hart's Bar and Grill that's here in Daytona, or actually was in Daytona. It's not here anymore. He relocated over to Tampa, and I was talking with Jim and stuff, and then viewing right now on the live stream, you can see behind me I got a Jim Cornette figure, and I got his autograph. The figure, the funny thing about the figure is, I don't know if I ever told you about it, there was a guy there selling merchandise, and Cornette's figure, the one that's on the wall right behind me, was just sitting right there. I said to the guy, I said, "You got a Jim Cornette figure, let me look at that." And I'm looking at it, and I was like, "No one's bought this?" The guy's like, "No." I said, "Jim Cornette's standing 3 feet right there." "Really?" I said, "That's crazy." I said, "How much you want for this?" And so I bought it, and I went over there, and I bugged Cornette again, and he signed it for me, which was pretty awesome, man. And how is it when, I know when you go to a lot of wrestling events, and you go to like fan convention, you know, for like wrestling, and when you meet wrestlers like Cornette and that same caliber, or just, you know, like workers and stuff, how is it for you when you meet them? I know it has to be all good, right?
Oh yeah, it's very good. When I go, I've done podcasting at different shows. I do like Heroes and Legends up in Fort Wayne, Indiana every year. Mm-hmm. And when I go out and meet these wrestlers, I mean, if I have a table and podcasting and interviewing, I'm straightly professional. I mean, I want to mark out like any other guy and be a fan. I mean, everybody's a wrestling fan. You can be a pro wrestler and be a fan of another wrestler, but me, I'm always professional when I'm doing my podcast, and I don't show an ounce of markedness. But if I'm there as like a regular fan, I'll mark out, but I won't let them know. I just treat them like a normal person, like I'm talking to you on the street, like how we're talking right now.
Right.
And that's how you do it. And then I have indie wrestlers, that been on my show and all that, and then see me at these different events, and they'll come up and say hi to me, and I've built a lot of great friendships with some of these wrestlers as well, and I've made some friends with some, bigger names as well, I got their, phone numbers, and, we talk once in a while and stuff, but, I never give out their numbers to anybody, but, I've got a lot of numbers. But speaking of Jim Cornette, David was with me, and we interviewed him at Heroes and Legends last year. The funniest videos ever. At first, it started off, he was ragging on Donald Trump, and I was sitting there rolling my eyes and go, "This is," my mind's like, I don't want to talk politically. He was just ribbing on Donald Trump, and then finally, after he got done, David was asking some questions, and then and I asked him some questions, and then he looked at me what I was wearing. He's like, "Hey, where'd you get that outfit at? Did you grab that out of the dumpster from a soup kitchen?"
Yeah, I remember that. That video was great, man. Yeah. He said, "Yeah, where'd you get the outfit at? Yeah, from a soup kitchen. From dumpster behind a soup kitchen." And then, what did he say to you?
Oh, he was ribbing on me and David, and it was so hard not to laugh. I was interviewing. I was holding the microphone, but I was so laughing so hard I didn't hold it the right way. He goes, "That's not how you hold a microphone to interview somebody. You do it like this."
Yeah, he took it and he just went off. That was great. That was great. Getting a promo cut on you by Jim Cornette, that's actually an honor. If you get a promo cut on you by Cornette, that's an honor basically, because he's a legend. He's a freaking legend.
Oh, heck yeah, he is, man. And, like I said, I've met a lot of big names. One of my favorite interviews I did, I had a NWA legend on, Nikita Koloff.
Yes.
That was a great interview. He's a very humbled man, and it's just great interviewing, some of the guys back from the day. They have, to me, when you interview them, it's so easy. You really don't have to do any research. You can just answer certain questions, and they flow with it, which is great. You don't have to worry about answering questions because, they'll take it over, which is pretty cool. But, man, he was a great interview, man.
He was. I listened to that episode. I loved it, man. And what do you think about that? This guy is Russian, okay? Character-wise, Russian, sang national anthem, got a lot of heat back in the day, and people just hated him. And then he's actually a guy from Chicago.
Yep. Well, he grew up poor in the projects and out there as well, and when he was growing up, he wasn't really a wrestling fan. He was focusing on playing football because he got, he went to play college football. He was scouted out by the NFL as well. And then he played football with Road Warrior Animal, and Road Warrior Animal's like, "Hey man, why don't you try, wrestling?" So when Jim Crockett called him up, he didn't go to no training school at all, man. They just pushed him in right in there. So when he did his first, TV taping for NWA, he didn't have any wrestling training. And he went in there and did his thing and won his match. And speaking of the Russian accent, he had a story back, like in the 80s. where they went to go wrestle in Kuwait. And the Russian ambassador thought he was like really legit Russian and wanted him to stay at the Russian embassy. So, he almost got in trouble. So he had to tell me that it wasn't really Russian. Well, the ambassador was like, you need to take the CCP and everything off. And he's like, okay. So when he was wrestling Sergeant Slaughter at the time, he goes, it was so messed up, Rob. And I was like, what's that? He goes, it was sitting in the front row. It was that same Russian ambassador and his wife.
That's great. Yeah, that was crazy right there when he brought up that story right there, because you didn't think something like that would happen, Or
another story he talked about too. He was in the running with Dolph Lundgren for the role of Ivan Drago for Rocky IV.
Yeah,
and he tested with Stallone as well as Dolph Lundgren. And Nikita had everything perfect, what Stallone said, but they decided to go for Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, because didn't he say it was because it's just Nikita he looked like he could destroy Stallone, and something like that. And he was taller than Stallone, wasn't he? Because Stallone's tall, but Nikita.
No, he's not really tall.
No,
Stallone uses he has like little stilts on his shoes to make him look taller. He's a short guy.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, but he towered him. But that podcast right there was just freaking great. I love that. And that was out of three, my top favorite 3 podcasts that you've done in the last.
What's that?
2 years. Number 3 would be Nikita Koloff right there. Number 2 would be Hillbilly Jim when he sang for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was great. Hillbilly Jim sang for me. He sang a song from Creed. Yeah. Did you know Hillbilly Jim may be a wrestler, but he's a big, lover of music, especially rock and all that. And, he has a satellite show on Outlaw Country on, Sirius XM. And he has a whole, guitar collection and stuff, Besides wrestling, he's also a talented musician. And then on live on my show, he busted out one of his guitars and played a Cream song for me. And then after that, he sang his theme song entrance to me as well.
How do you... What the hell was going through your mind? Because in your mind, I know you figured, okay, this is how it's going to go tonight. I'm going to ask him questions. I'm going to ask him about his career, ask him how he started, and then get into talking about some other things. And then all of a sudden, when you mentioned he's a fan of music and he plays, he's like, oh yeah, I want to hear a song, and all of a sudden he's playing. What the hell was going through your mind when he busts out the guitar and started jamming right there on your show?
I was completely speechless.
Completely speechless. I think I would be too. Was that like the first guest that's ever like pulled out a guitar and say, hey, I'm going to play you a song, and then start just playing?
Yeah, it was. It was the first. It was great. And then, when I have like ring announcers on, I'll have them, go on their ring announcer and announce me, which is pretty cool too. And what was the other interview besides Hillbilly and Nikita? You said there was like 3.
There's 3. My top favorite one was when you had Coco Beware on. I love that.
Oh gosh,
that was great. That was great.
He was so fun. He got like really deep into his life growing up and everything. Oh yeah, that one was definitely a fun episode too. You gotta love some Coco Beware. And speaking of podcasts, I had a podcast last night with a guy named Rapid Delivery Roy Fox. And remember back in the 90s when they did those MTV True Life on Be a Professional Wrestler?
Yes. I was going to ask you about that, but we're going to take a break. We want to give a shout out to the sponsors of Podcast City Network.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Morph Tee, a comfortable and lightweight 100% polyester t-shirt with illustrated morph characters that, when worn, will make the illustrations seem to come to life. For more of Tony Rodriguez's work, you can see his full line of apparel at teespring.com. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/SportsSanityCustoms. 3-Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3CountDesign for more. Demoblast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit DemoblastStudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/DemoblastStudios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Yeah, Roy Fox was the guy they focused on, where he drove to Cincinnati to get trained by Les Thatcher over at the HWA, the Heartland Wrestling Association, where there's been a lot of big names that came out there, like Dean Ambrose, Eli Drake, Braxton Sutter, Sammy Callahan, Dave and Jake Chris, Kelly Klein, just a bunch of great names came out of that. So yeah, they followed him about him becoming, a pro wrestler, and he learned from, Les Thatcher, and he wrestled for a little bit over in the HWA, and then later on, he wrestled over in the WWF at the time before it was the WWE, and he had some great stories about when he was working for Vince, and then after that he went and got real big over wrestling all over Texas, and it was a if you get a chance to listen to it, you should. It was a very fun podcast. He enjoyed so much. He had so much stuff to do. We're going to be doing a part 2.
Nice. I remember watching that back in the 90s when that came on, because it was great, because I remember him trying to find a gimmick and stuff, and when he found the gimmick and everything, he went with it, and it was, I can't believe he's still wrestling. I forgot about him, man. I didn't even know that he was still working, and it's amazing that he's still working to this day. That's amazing, and I don't really remember him back in WWE. I don't know. Did he? I'm gonna have.
I'll tell you a couple of cool WWE stories. He wrestled Haku. That was his first match ever. He wrestled Haku.
Okay.
And then this a second run over in WWE. He was on ECW TV when they had the ECW show through WWF.
Yeah.
And he was known for the infamous tights situation. He was wrestling Zack Ryder, and his tights ripped in half, just trunks.
Yeah.
While he was wrestling. And so from there, Chris Jericho started, getting a kick out of it, about it, and he wrote that match and story in one of his books about that whole situation with Roy Fox. And so later on, Roy goes up to Chris, and he's like, "What's up with that? You put me in your book, Mm-hmm. So Chris Jericho invited him to one of his concerts when he was doing Fozzy, and he went to his tour bus, and they did a podcast interview where they talked about the whole thing because, before Chris and Zack Ryder would always laugh about that time, and then Roy's like, what about me, man? I want to share my side of the story. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's great. I can't believe he's still wrestling, man. I still can't believe he's wrestling. I remember watching him on MTV back in the day, the Made series back in the day, and I did watch the episode where I Want to Be a Pro Wrestler, and they were talking about a lot of wrestlers, and they focused on him. And then they focused on Triple H in China at the time when they were together traveling around.
Yep.
And then this other guy, I remember he was trying to be a wrestler. That didn't work out for him, and then he quit. But Rory just went on, and I can't believe that, man. That's amazing. I'm gonna have to listen to that episode. I'm gonna have to listen to it because
it was pretty good. And Les Thatchers gave him this gimmick. They called him Rapid Delivery. So they made him come out as a paper boy gimmick, riding a bicycle.
I remember that, man. I mean, it's a gimmick, man. It has to work because when you start wrestling, I mean, for example, and I know this, you start out, you got to start somewhere. Once you get in there, like look at Triple H terrorizing. You remember that terrorizing?
Yeah.
Trained by the Killer Kowalski. You're terrorizing. Terrorizing, and he's like terrorizing that like that. And then what is it? Dustin Reynolds. Dustin Rhodes. He was the natural Dustin Rhodes, and look, he became Goldust. One person, John Moxley, Dean Ambrose.
Oh yeah, Dean Ambrose, and I love it how he's back to John Moxley again because I remember him during the HWA days, which we talked about as well. And I love that video what he was doing. He was breaking out of prison. And I think that's like a slap to WWE. It's like, hey, I'm breaking out of this. I'm not going to be controlled anymore. I'm going to be John Moxley. And I'm dying to see where he's going to go with the whole him going back as John Moxley. Right now, I think that's the greatest thing that's happening in indie wrestling right now.
It is. And did you notice that, you see, his contract ended last night at midnight? That video and that promo was dropped on his Twitter account, of John Moxley's Twitter account, which he hasn't used since 2012, and dropped on there like at 12:01. And I woke up this morning and seen that John Moxley has broke the internet, and people are excited about it. People were foreshadowing like that, like the prison thing. I heard people talking about that. They said, yeah, that's him basically breaking out of WWE or breaking out of the Ambrose Asylum. Then there's, like the foreshadow of like the, on the wall where you see like the numbers of like days.
Yeah, they were teasing the numbers and the date for Double or Nothing for All Elite Wrestling. Yeah. Double Elite. Yeah, Double or Nothing and All Elite Wrestling. And in the Viper Room, when they showed the Viper Room, when you just walk in with the dice that says 2 and 5, that's something right there. And then him getting chased by the dog, it was supposed to be the big dog, foreshadowing Roman Reigns. Just a lot of stuff going on in that, Oh, and it was great. And that 2-5 dice you see him rolling, that was like it could be a tease for Double or Nothing at the All Elite Wrestling show in Vegas. That could be like a little tease too. So.
Oh yeah. David says right here on the chat. He says that he was at the scene at GCW at Mania Weekend. He says, Robyn, he was seen at GCW at Mania Weekend. And he said, I told you, Everett. You might have told me, but I don't know. You tell me a lot of things, David. I can't think of it. What you haven't told me.
Well, like I said, Moxley is not a stranger to hardcore matches because when he left HWA, he wrestled over at CCW, Combat Zone Wrestling. He was in a lot of bloody death matches and hardcore matches too, where he started out before he was founded to the WWE. And so that's kind of neat him if he was there at GCW or Game Changer Wrestling, which is another hardcore death match promotion too, but they also have regular wrestling matches as well. So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know he was at CGW. I do have to give props to David C. Russell for pointing that out to me, because I think on one of the podcasts one night I pulled up some Jon Moxley stuff and I was like, wow, I didn't know he was in this. And David was like, yeah, dude, he was in CCW, man. I was like, wow, he was their champion. I thought that was amazing. What do you think he will go and show up at AEW? Do you think he will? What do you think, man?
I don't know, man. It's really hard to say. We just don't know what he's going to do. I mean, who knows what he's going to do in the Indies? He may just be saying, hey, I'm coming back. Maybe he's going to do a run. Maybe he's going to take a little sabbatical for a little bit, relax. Who knows what he's going to do? We really don't know what, Moxley's going to do. We'll just have to find out.
Mm-hmm. And one thing about him, okay, now he let his contract run out. And a lot of people don't realize this. He let his contract run out where basically he didn't fall under that WWE no-compete clause of getting released or getting fired.
Yeah.
So he can do whatever. Like at 12 on May 1st, 12:01, he can have a match any place. Any place. Long as you don't use the name Dean Ambrose. And that's fine. Like if he got released or fired, then he has to wait 90 days and then go back, and then after 90 days he's allowed to compete. But I am looking forward. I think he will end up in AEW. He may do a run-in. He may stay in the Indies, like you said. He may stay in the Indies. He may go to Game Changer Wrestling. That'd be great. Him doing something to Game Changer Wrestling, show up at AEW, do a run-in, do something, do an angle, and then leave. And then you don't hear nothing from him for like a while, and then he comes back and does something. And then I hear people talking about, oh, it's WWE just letting him. They're letting him. He's still with them. He's gonna become Jon Moxley. Okay, now dumbass that said this, and people that say this. Okay. If he comes out as Jon Moxley in WWE, they're still going to holler at him as Dean Ambrose. What? That's stupid.
Yeah. Right? Well, another thing about this, WWE wouldn't do that type of, crazy video like that where he's all bloodied up and doing all that crazy stuff, because they're focusing on more of a lighter tone. Because if they went back and tried to do the Attitude Era, it wouldn't be as good how it was back in the day.
I agree with you right there. I definitely agree with you right there. And one thing that gets me about this, about Jon Moxley, is that this video and this promo on his Twitter account was shot really good, like really professionally. It was shot excellent. He must have shot this ahead of time. He must have shot this months or weeks ahead of time. And knew at 12:01 midnight on May 1st, he was a free man, free agent. He was going to put this out. He knew, because what gets me is when I'm watching Raw and when Ambrose was on there, when Jon Moxley Ambrose was on there, and then Corey Graves making the smart remarks to Renee Young. It's like, what's he going to do now? He don't have a plan. If he leaves, he don't decide to stay. And Renee's like, oh yeah, he does have a plan, because they're talking to him. Vince or some idiot's talking to him. In the back, they're talking in their ear and just saying that just to nag and just rib Renee about it. Like, he ain't gonna do nothing. He don't have no plan. And Renee's like, yeah, Renee knows what her husband's doing, right? I mean, come on.
Of course.
Come on.
They're married. And speaking of, Moxley as well, he was at the Cauliflower Alley Club in Vegas, giving the award to his best friend, Cody Hawk, who got the Trainers Award. And Cody Hawk, trained, Moxley, and Cody Hawk, has been around the wrestling business for a long time. He's wrestled everywhere. He's wrestled in WWF as well, but he's trained some big names. Besides Moxley, he's trained Braxton Sutter. He's trained Eli Drake, Sami Callihan. He's managed a lot of great big names that have made names for themselves.
He has, and I've had, and you've had on students of his. I've had, and you've had on Hardcore Heather Owens, Shauna Reed. I've had her on. You've had her on, and that's your favorite wrestler, Shauna Reed.
I know. I know. She told you that story. Me and her have that love-hate relationship. Oh yeah.
Yeah, when I had her on, man, you told me you were giving me some good some info and stuff because I hit you up and I said, hey, I'm gonna have Shauna Reed on, and you hit me right up, and I loved how you mentioned, you gave me some extra notes and said mention this, talk about that, which really helped. And when I brought your name up, it was funny. that was great. And speaking, Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of Shauna Reed, I love that video where she got in the ring there and you didn't know it was her, and she did that DDT, and then she pulled off the hoodie and the mask, and it was her, and she took off like a bat out of hell out of the ring.
Oh yeah, she DDT'd Militant Mark Magnum. He is part of the Code. It's the Code versus FGW. Future Great Wrestling is a great promotion over here in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is run by Brian and Cody Hawk. And it's a great promotion on Friday nights. They got a huge following. They have like over 300 fans that come every Friday to go watch their show. It's a good time. If you ever get a chance, just check out Future Great Wrestling in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, Future Great Wrestling. I know there for a while they were having a problem because you were putting stuff up, and I helped you when you put the thing out about Future Great Wrestling. That was messed up, but I'm glad everything turned out. But what happened? What was the deal with that?
Okay, well, Brian wanted to do a show and over in Hamilton, Ohio, which is outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. And there's like the senior citizen community, which is right across right by the sports complex where they were going to have FGW. And these senior citizens were getting all freaked out, going, "Oh no, it's wrestling fans!" Wrestling fans are just a bunch of rednecks. They like to fight and beat up in the parking lot. They're going to come over to our community and rob us or ruin the deer trail or this and this and all that. So they got Brian and Future Great Wrestling, and they had to go to the city and Hamilton board, to get the wrestling. So and plus, Future Great Wrestling got a lot of media, which helped too. Local news was sharing it, newspapers, and they gave them a 90-day trial period, and they had like a cop there, off-duty cop to make sure, everything's going good.
Right.
So they had 90 days. So they did their thing for 90 days. There was no trouble or anything, and the seniors at the community, didn't have no problems. The cop who was, security and saying, "I really don't need to be here because there's no riffraff or no trouble going on, so why should I, be here, And then, not too long ago, they went back for the second meeting, and they all supported Future Great Wrestling in Hamilton. So they're off their 90-day probation period. Now they got their full shows. Now everything's all cool.
That's great. I'm so glad that worked out. I'm so glad everything worked out, and they got their shows, and they're able to put on great entertainment and stuff. Has any of the senior citizens like creeped on over there to check out and see what was going on?
Yeah, actually, there's a few that came that really enjoyed the show. The show's real great. It's like old school. It has a storyline like back in the 80s. A lot of in-ring psychology, good storylines.
Right.
And it's also fun for the whole family. You can bring your kids and everything too. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Now with Wrestle Popcast, you like talking about the paranormal with Files 13. Now, what's been some of the most interesting guests you've had on Files 13?
Ooh, I had my one favorite one is I had Andrea Perrin on. She was one of the kids who grew up in that haunted farmhouse that they based the film The Conjuring off of. And when I interviewed her, she said when they did the movie, it was like far-fetched. It was not really how it happened.
Right.
So she wrote three books on it, and they're going to get ready to do an accurate movie on there. And she told some stories, all that crazy going on, what happened, during their stay in that farmhouse where her father was completely possessed. They always saw weird stuff, and every time she left, that house would always attract her to come back. And there's some of the stories she got into. It was like really hard for her because, it was hard for her to talk. She cried a little bit too, man, when she was sharing her story about living in that farmhouse that was based off The Conjuring.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw when you dropped that episode to me to put it on the website, I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, he's talking with the lady who actually lived there. I was like, this is great. And you got and when I put that out there for you, when I promoted it for Podcasting Network, a lot of people loved it, man. A lot of people loved it. I'm sure you got a lot of plays on that, didn't you?
Oh, I got a lot of downloads on there, man.
Oh, okay. Downloads. Hey, that's even better.
Yeah,
that's
and then
better, man. That's even better.
And then I had another guest on where, Zach Baggins and all of them, and a lot of big celebrities and big, paranormal investigators went to this guy's house where he lived on the catty corner from where Sharon Tate was murdered by the Manson clan right there.
Uh-huh.
And that was, he said, the ghost of Sharon Tate would frequently haunt him. His house is so haunted as well. He's got a lot of paranormal activity. It's like a giant, paranormal magnet right there where he's attracting everything. Jeez. And he's used to living there in that house. He says there's a lot of messed up stuff going on. And his house is right, down the street from where Sharon Tate was murdered.
Right. Yeah, that was messed up, the whole Sharon Tate thing. And because Manson was going back after, what the hell? The drummer from the Beach Boys that lived there in that house. Brian, I think it was...
Brian Wilson. It's Brian Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, he went back there. And basically he thought Brian Wilson still lived there. But it was Sharon Tate. And then his crazy cult followers went in there and killed everyone, man.
And that was crazy. Messed up because they murdered her and when she was pregnant, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah, that was messed up. It was just a messed up situation. It definitely was. I heard that house in the early 90s went up for sale. And a rumor was, I heard that Trent Reznor bought the house and recorded the whole Downward Spiral album in that house.
Wow, that's wild, man.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard he bought the house and recorded the Downward Spiral there. And he, Downward Spiral is one of the great albums of the 90s because it had Closer on it and a lot of other songs there. But apparently he bought that house. No one wanted to buy the house. No one wanted it because of what happened. Trent bought it, stayed there, recorded a downward spiral, and then I guess he sold it or he moved out or something. I don't know what happened though, but I heard that that's a story there that he actually stayed there and recorded the downward spiral, which I think it's just crazy. You know?
That is just
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, that's why that album turned out like the way it did. So who knows? He's out there too, but he makes great music. He makes great music. He does.
He's like that unique artist.
Mm-hmm. He is. He's just a great artist. Now, besides wrestling, doing a Wrestle Podcast, besides doing the paranormal activity, you and me, we have a lot of things in common. And one of the things we have in common is we like comic book movies. We love comic book movies. And I'm going to say this right now to the viewers viewing right now. If you have not seen Avengers Endgame, please click off, and when the audio version of this podcast comes out, there's going to be a point where you can fast forward it. But if you don't care, fuck it. We're going to talk about Avengers Endgame. What?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
I saw that opening night on Thursday night, and that place was sold out. Man, it was like a madhouse.
You saw it Thursday night.
And what do you think? No, I saw it Thursday night at 6:00 at night.
Oh, okay.
And so what do you think about it, how all the movie theater websites, movie tickets, Fandango, all of them crashed because everybody wanted to buy those Avenger Endgame tickets?
God dang. I thought that was crazy because I knew, because the hype for a whole year, people's been waiting for this movie to come out. They've been waiting because after the events at the end of Infinity War, people are like, where are they going to go? And I loved how they marketed this movie. With the trailers, you know something's going to happen. Not too much is given away. Perfect. You actually had to go see this movie. Okay? You actually had to go see this movie to find out what the hell are the remaining Avengers going to do. And with the addition of Captain Marvel. I was disappointed with Captain Marvel, but she played her purpose. And just the beginning of the movie. Dude, Thanos.
Oh, he was on vacation. He was a farmer. He was farming. He used his armor like a scarecrow for his gardening and stuff. He was just relaxing.
Mm-hmm. He was,
which is pretty crazy, and and the whole movie was great because it finished the Infinity storyline. It finished all the storylines for the 14 years Marvel's been going on, and I love how they connected all the stories and finally ended it for that phase, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, the 6 Avengers, Hulk, Thor, Captain America,
Guardian,
Hawkeye, Scarlet, Black Widow. They all basically got their story concluded there. Okay, their story got concluded, and what about that twist with Black Widow? Damn.
Oh, that was crazy. It was her and Hawkeye. They went to go get one of the stones and all
Soul
that.
Stone.
Yeah, the Soul Stone, and they're fighting who's going to sacrifice, because one of them, once you go down there, you're dead.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing about it is Black Widow sacrificed herself because she knew Clint, had kids and a wife and stuff. Mm-hmm. So she tricked Clint and ended up, sacrificing herself so he can get the Soul Stone.
Yeah. That was crazy. That was crazy right there. I didn't expect that. Clint had nothing to lose. The beginning of the movie, man, was tear-jerking, man. When Clint was out there, and then his family just dusted.
Oh yeah, disappeared because it was happening at the end of what Thanos did when he did the snap of his fingers, and then everywhere you go, you always saw people disappearing, especially with Ant-Man when he came back.
Yeah.
Remember how he went back to his ex-wife's house?
Yeah.
And he knocks on the door, and it's like it's like it was. He saw his daughter. She was like a little bit older and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was gone for. Yeah, because he was gone for a long time. Because they thought he died and all that, and then he was trying to find the love of his wife, the Wasp. So they had that special cemetery of all the people that disappeared in the dust.
Yeah, yeah. He was looking for hope, and because remember at the end of Ant-Man and Wasp, the mid credits scene. Remember that? Yeah. 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 Because we saw what happened with them. He got stuck in the quantum zone, and he was stuck in there for 5 years. And he comes out, and he's like, "Man, what the hell?" And it was just because it seemed like he was in there for a minute, and he comes out, but it seemed time passed. It was 5 years, man, 5 years, and he played the biggest part in the movie right there, because if a rat didn't step on the thing, that was funny when he comes back, and then he's sitting there with the camera with the sign, "Let me out."
Oh, I know that was funny. Yeah. Or what? That's so great, and I love how they did the whole tie-in with the Guardians as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what do you think about Thor 5 years later? He was lazy with a big beer gut, and he was drinking beer.
Yeah, yeah, the Jeff Bridges thing going on, man. The big Lebowski.
Lebowski. He had the big Lebowski robe, and he had the beard, the glasses. That was funny.
I like seeing the guy from Thor Ragnarok, the big rock guy, was hanging out with him sitting there playing Fortnite.
I know that was so funny, and then
that was great. That was great. I liked it when he's sitting there and they're talking. They're trying to figure out at what times is the best time to get the stones, and then they're like, Thor is tell us about the reality stone. He's sitting there. And they're like, is he awake?
Yeah, that was great.
That was.
And a hopeful movie is there's a lot of characters in that movie that sacrificed themselves.
Yeah.
There was a few more characters that died as well.
Yeah.
For example, let's talk about Tony Stark. 5 years later, he was married to Pepper and he had a daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. He if you look at it this way, the MCU movies, okay, this story, 22 movies 10 years later, okay, it started with Iron Man and it ended with Iron Man.
Yeah, it did, and I love how they did that. Yeah. And he, how he sacrificed himself and brought everybody back to the Marvel, universe and stuff. Everybody came back alive again.
Yeah.
And then when he died, the cool thing I liked about his funeral is they had every character from everybody from all the movies. And if you notice, the kid that was standing at the funeral by himself,
yes,
that was the kid from Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I remember that because my wife asked me about that. Who was that kid? I said, that's the kid from Iron Man 3. And she's like, I never did see Iron Man 3. And so
that means Tony must have kept a close relationship with that kid if that kid was, there at that funeral.
Yeah, yeah, he must have. He must have. And it was actually, you said Tony was the one who brought everyone back. It was Bruce. Remember, he put the glove on and he snapped.
Oh, that's right, Bruce did. Yeah, Bruce was smart Hulk. He was half Bruce and half Hulk.
Yeah, what'd you think about that, man?
Remember how he did that? Because Tony had it first, but he couldn't control it because he wasn't powerful enough, and that's how he died. And then when Bruce took it over, he had the strength to overcome that.
Yeah. Yeah, he did because of because of who he was. But in that last moment right there, because he looked at Strange, he's like, "Is this the one what the only way to beat him out of that 14 million you thought of? And he was like, I can't tell you. And that was, I mean, remember in Infinity War, Doctor Strange looked at 14 million ways to defeat Thanos. He said there's only one way to do it. And they did it. They did it. I mean, Captain Marvel, when she came in during the fight scene at the end, dude, that was great. The theater, tell me when you went and seen it, when Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man was fighting the 2014 Thanos after he came through, when they're sitting there fighting, and when they're getting their butts kicked, and Thor, he got his original hammer back, and he has Storm.
Yeah, Mjolnir. And wasn't it cool when Captain America picked it up, and Thor goes, "I knew he was worthy."
Yes.
And then Captain America was using it on Thanos. That everybody in that whole theater cheered really loud. It felt like the theater was shaking when that part came.
Same with me, man. Same with me when I was at the theater. As soon as the hammer lifted up, and I was like, "What the hell?" All of a sudden, boom, and it was him, and he called it back, and I forget the line he said though. And yeah, when Thor said that was just freaking great. I loved how he's throwing the shield and hammer back and forth at the same time against Thanos. That was great, man. That was freaking.
And remember how they brought everybody back from the Marvel Universe. I love how they made that little teaser where you saw all the women heroes together, which they were giving you a tease that there's going to be a female Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And another thing that gave me a tearjerker was the part where Peter went up to Tony and gave him that hug. Because Tony really loved Peter Parker like a son.
Yeah, he did. He did. He loved him like a son. He definitely loved him like a son, and that was a hard part there. I liked when Wanda, Scarlet Witch, came back.
Yeah,
and she was
she was badass.
She was pissed, man. She was pissed. And it's like, and Thanos is like, I don't even know what I've done. It is like, oh yeah.
But the sad thing about Wanda, she never got her man back, Division. He never came back.
No. But what I loved about Thanos in this movie was when he saw everything that unfolded that was going to happen, he smiled, and they're like, you die. Nebula and, what the hell's her name? Aurora, I think. You know what I'm talking about from Guardians?
Oh, yeah, they went back and all that, and when Thanos, brought back Gamora and all of them, they brought them back, to where all began. And Gamora, when they did that, it prevented Gamora from, meeting, Star-Lord,
Yeah.
To that whole movie, she didn't know who he was, and then when Star-Lord finally saw her, she didn't know who he was, and and gave him like that knee in the nuts and stuff, and then she just mysteriously disappeared. Yeah. And I like how they teach it for the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So when Guardians come out, because it's getting ready to be filmed right now, when Guardians come out, they're going to go find Gamora.
Yeah, of course, Star-Lord's going to go find the woman he loves. And what I loved was when after Thanos seen everything that was supposed to happen, and they're like, you die, and he's like, it was fulfilled. He embraced it. He's like, this is my destiny. It's like, oh my God. It's like he saw Hal and everything, he was supposed to die. He was like, fuck, man. He's like, I did it. All he cared was, he's like, I got the stones, and I did what I was been talking about doing all these years. I did it. And he was just, he embraced it. That right there, to me, I was like, this is one badass villain. He's like, fuck, I died, okay, so what? He's like, I snapped my fingers, I did what I needed to do, and that I wiped out half the universe, so, I died. Okay, so what? I accomplished what I needed to do. If you look at it that way.
So what do you think about it when Steve Rogers grabbed all the stones and went back in time, but he never came back? And I love how he, you see him back, but he's an older man. He decided to stay back in the 1940s with his love of his life, and he just grew old. I thought that was kind of cool.
That was good, and he got to have that dance with her, and when it ended, that was it, and I loved it. Did you heard about at the end of the movie? You hear that clanking of the iron, paying tribute.
Yeah, I think that was the. Yeah, that was a tribute because that's all started him making that armor in that cave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It started there. He made that suit, became Iron Man, and then look where it went, man. Look where it went.
It ended with Tony. That was pretty cool.
Now, what did you think about Captain Marvel in that movie? Because she held her own. I mean, she did play a part in the movie, but I was telling a friend of mine, and I was telling my wife, I said, Marvel created a powerful character, and if they wanted to, they could have had her come in there and basically, boom, that's it. But they held back because creating someone that powerful, she did hold her own, and she did play a part in taking down Thanos, because if it was for her doing what she did during that last fight, I don't think the Avengers would have had a chance. But she helped out, but in a way, I wanted to see more from her. I was expecting more, but I wasn't. I didn't get that. So,
That was great. That whole movie was great. I just like how he gave it an ending, and it was good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun film.
Mm-hmm. I did too. I can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray, because I'm going to get it. I have most of the Marvel movies on Blu-ray, and I still haven't got them all yet, but I'm going to get them all just to have as a collection. I am. I got the first Thor and Captain America and the first Avengers movie on Blu-ray, and Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I have that now on DVD. I do have Iron Man. I do have the first Iron Man.
Okay.
And the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. You can't forget about that one. That was part of it too. The MCU leading up to, where they got to 22 films later. But this past weekend was crazy with the Avengers. And then to top it all off, to end it on Sunday night, Game of Thrones.
Oh my God. Game of Thrones. Oh, my God, I was so speechless. It was an hour and a half, the most bloody, brutal war that we ever seen so far. So far of the final season, this has been my favorite episode.
Yes.
And but the one thing I didn't like about it was the cinematography, because it was filmed so dark, you couldn't really see anything.
Yeah, it was a night battle. The cinematographer.
Yeah, I know that, but it was really hard when they were filming on certain actors. Of course, it was.
Yeah.
And it was sad. There was a lot of characters died on there, like Killjoy. I like Killjoy, who was protecting Bram, the Third Eye Raven.
Yes.
And I love how he sacrificed himself to protect him. But the cool thing is, I liked how Arya Stark came by and killed him with that blade, the metal dragon blade.
Yeah.
And she did that one move she learned from that guy from The Many Faces.
Yeah, the faceless man, the man with no face. Yeah, she learned that because my wife pointed that out, and she said that she learned that. And I had my friend over. I rewatched the episode yesterday, and I had a friend of mine over who didn't see it and wanted to see it. And he was over, and he said, yeah, it's like, that's the second time she did that. And I forgot about it. I forgot about that. And yeah, she did learn that from him, the faceless man. And that was a shock right there, man. Arya Stark killing the Night King.
I'll tell you this. I'm tell you this. She once she killed the Dark King, the Night King.
Mm-hmm.
All the dead died, man. And then another sad thing was, Daenerys, the one who used to be the king's hand before Tyrion.
Yeah,
he sacrificed himself too, and she really took that to heart. She really cared about him, and that was sad. But the cool thing is, he sacrificed himself because he loved her more than just being a friend too.
Yeah. He loved her, but she didn't love him back the same way, and that was tearjerker right there, man. But he went out dying, man. He basically fought till the death to protect her, and when he was down, my friend pointed this out, and I watched it because remember when he got stabbed and he was down, he stood back up. Yeah, he just kept on freaking fighting, man. He kept fighting until he was done, and the Night King showed how smart he was. I liked how when he brought the storm in where they couldn't light the trenches, and the lady in red had to light it because Daenerys was so far up she couldn't see down. That was smart.
Yeah.
And then when he got knocked off his dragon, he's fallen. He's just sitting there just falling. And then when she got above him, and when she had her dragon burn him, it didn't burn him. And he was like, huh. And then when he was walking off and Jon was trying to track him down, and when he turned around and he raised a new army of the fallen comrades around that was fighting to kill the dead. Damn.
Oh, that was wild because Jon wanted to kill him. Mm-hmm. Or what do you think about the dragon fight where they were in on the dragon fighting the dead dragon? That was cool too.
Dude, that was freaking great. I loved my favorite shot out of that episode was when they went up above the clouds and the moon and everything. I want to get that picture. I want to put it on as a background on my computer. I love that shot, man. But, they thought that was a great idea. Let's get up above the clouds and we can have a good bet. Nah, man, he comes up. You don't know where he's coming from. It's like Jaws coming at you. You don't know where he's coming out from below, but he's coming for you. And that was great, the dragon fight. Do you think that second dragon's dead when Jon's on, or you think he's wounded?
I think... that dragon got attacked by the dead a lot too, was taken down. I have a feeling the dragon's wounded because you didn't really see it really dying. I think the dragon was really wounded and stuff.
Yeah.
Or what do you think about that? What do you think about the Hound going back to help Arya Stark, man?
Yeah, because he was going to give up. He's like, there's no fucking way we're going to beat him. And he's like, well, tell her that. What's his name? The guy who came back 19 times?
Oh, yeah, with the fiery sword.
Yes.
But he sacrificed himself for the Hound and Arya.
Yeah, he did. He definitely sacrificed himself.
And the perfect thing I liked about the Red Witch, I love where she told said she was going to kill herself after the war's over, and you see her walk into the snow, and she takes that magic amulet off, and then she turns into her 800-year-old self and just dies.
Yeah, because everything she said, if they were talking about the story for this started in season 3, and they built it all up to it. Because I love the part where she said when Arya runs into the lady in red, it says, "I know you,"
mm-hmm.
and she's like, "You said we'll meet again," and she said, "Yeah," and she said, Arya said to her, "You said I'll have green eyes, brown eyes," and then she said, "and blue eyes." And then when the White Walkers are trying to come in, and she said, "The God of Death, what do you say to the God of Death today?" Or what do you say to the god of death? And Arya says, not today. And then she walks off. That's great because you forgot about her. Because in that final scene when she jumps out and she stabs the Night King with the Valyrian steel dagger, that was given to her by Bran. You know, think about that. Think about it. And if you think about that too, you know where that dagger came from? It came from Cersei. It was given from Cersei, if I remember correctly. It was given from Cersei.
Yeah, it was. It was given from
Cersei to Sansa. Sansa gave it to Bran. And then Bran turns around and he gives it to Arya. You know? And apparently Arya knew that the actress who plays her knew that she was going to be the one killing Night King, and she was nervous about it because she said she didn't know how fans would take it. Are they going to take it good that a person her size, a statue, was going to take out the Night King? Because we always thought it was being
they also didn't take it lightly when she had that sex scene with that blacksmith.
God, I know. It just killed me about that. People were freaking out about that. Like, no, she can't do that. It's like, dude, she don't know if she's... Honestly, okay, Robyn, okay. It's, the army of dead's coming, and you're in a place with the opposite sex, okay? All right? Are you want to have a good time because you don't know if you're going to live tomorrow? Would you do the same thing?
Oh heck yeah! But let's hope it's not like if it was all the Night's Watch where it's all men.
I mean, serious. I would have done the same thing. And people are like, "Oh no!" They're just going. It's like, shut up on Twitter. Shut up. And then like when comicbook.com puts out this article with during the episode, fans are outraged about Game of Thrones. And I'm like,
those
really?
guys, most of those are like clickbaits, man.
They are. Comicbook.com now is the TMC of the geek culture, pop culture, because they basically like to throw shit out there and just that's no one's really talking about, just to have something to talk about, something small and tiny. I went on Twitter. Hashtag Battle of Winterfell. 10 people, or less, about 10 people, like on the article, were complaining. They couldn't see. And comicbook.com made it like everyone was all flipping out about it because they couldn't see the episode. I loved how the cinematographer got on there today and basically said, there's contrast on TV. And I have to say, I have 4 settings on my TV. When I watch certain things on my TV, I switch it over to those settings because I could see it better. Okay? I have a setting for when I watch Game of Thrones because when the episode was on, I was like, I couldn't see it because I have a 50-inch flat screen. So I flipped over and I put it on my custom settings. Boom. I could see it. I can see the episode. But comicbook.com, they're like the TMZ now of geekdom. And it's like, come on, man. They used to be good, but now they're just garbage now.
most of those geek websites are now. But sometimes there's some good there's some good stuff, coming up, like movie-wise or comic book-wise, which is good. But most of these, geek sites, I mean, I'm guilty of reading them too. Most of them are just turning out into being clickbaits.
They are, because that's basically what it is. They become like TMZ, like Kim Kardashian's pregnant. You click on the thing, and it's like Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are talking about maybe having a baby. But the headline said...
Speaking of comicbook.com, they put another post on. It says, fans can't stop freaking out over that hilarious Captain America scene, the butt scene in Avengers Endgame.
Really?
Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah. It happened once. That was it. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I went and seen Avengers Endgame, Captain America butt scene. I'm not. They're idiots. They're idiots now. They got some good articles depending on what they put out there, but other than that, they're just garbage now. They've basically become this watered down website that basically makes you click on stuff. And I guess the person who put up the thing for Game of Thrones, I think they had a midnight deadline, and it was like, you better come up with something. And they're watching Game of Thrones, and I hate, the only time I jump on Twitter, social media, when I'm watching something is in between commercials. I don't sit there with my phone and spend most of my time on my phone tweeting and messaging and posting while the episode's airing, because I'm going to miss something, and I will. And I think they had they must have had a midnight deadline. Natalie, whatever her name was, Natalie Drum, or whatever the fuck her name was, must have had a deadline at midnight, and she's watching Game of Thrones. She got on Twitter and saw 10 people complaining about how dark it is. It's like, ooh, I think that'd be good for a clickbait article. And she puts it out there. It's like, what the hell, man? Yeah, I'm serious. I'm sorry. When I see bullshit, I call bullshit, and that's some bullshit there. And
that's the thing. If you look at some of the wrestling websites, they used to be real good as well. Now all of them are just making up, stuff, clickbait. And there's wrestlers that called them out, going, "That's not true."
Yeah. Remember last week? I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago. Remember the CM Punk incident where he had a mask on, he did a run-in for an indie show and left? And all these websites are blowing up about it. It's like, everyone's excited. CM Punk, he did something with wrestling. Oh, my God, he's coming back. Oh, my God. It's like, did you ever actually watch the video of that?
Yeah. I thought it was crazy.
Now, did you see the reaction in the faces of everyone when he comes running out, he does his bit, and then he leaves? No one really cared. It was like, okay, all right, so what? A guy runs in, boom, and that's it. But then other places are like, but it was CM Punk. It was CM Punk. It's like, get over it. At first, I'm like, bullshit. I was like, he's wearing the same sweater he was wearing, hoodie. But then when it was actually confirmed it was him, I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, he did a run-in. Okay. CM Punk only does something when he believes in it, or if it's a friend that he's close with. He won't do nothing unless he's 100%. He's going to put 100% into it, and he'll do it. Like when he did UFC thing, he put 100% into it, and he did that. He has friends in the wrestling community, and he did this because that's what he wanted to do. And he was supposed to take the mask off, and thank God he didn't, because the internet would have blew up. They would have blew up, man. They would have exploded like the Night King did on Game of Thrones this past Sunday. Oh, man. But I just, you're right, man. Some of these wrestling sites and some of these comic book sites, it's just crazy now. And it's crazy. That's the world we live in, Robyn. And it's like you said and I said before, I love how things were back then because things were so much simpler. Like with wrestling, I wish sometimes I didn't know. I wish things were still kayfabe. I do.
Oh, I miss those days.
I do. I wish things were kayfabe, but this is the world we live in now. This is definitely the world we live in. But hell, man, we had an amazing weekend just with Avengers and Game of Thrones and everything. And I think.
Here's another thing. Ringside News just posted this up. CM Punk booked on night of AEW Double or Nothing.
Okay.
Let's see what this has to say. This is from Ringside News. I'm curious now. It said AEW's Double or Nothing event is going to be a big show. The Elite obviously want to put their best foot forward, but it very likely won't include CM Punk. CM Punk is currently booked to be on commentary during the May 25th event. This is taking place, and it's like a different event. And then they said odds are CM Punk will be plenty busy that night, so don't expect him at Double or Nothing. All right. So why are you saying he's booked on AEW or Nothing when you're saying he's not going to show up? I mean, what kind of fucking clickbait article is that?
You see, that's the shit that it made you click on it, right? You see, they did their job. They made you click on it, man. They fucking made you click on it. That's what gets me about
Let's see what some of the I like reading comments from other people. It's so funny.
Yeah, the comments section's funny. What's some of the comments?
Oh, here's what one guy said. He said, "Wow, it literally says CM Punk will most likely not show up. Saved you a click."
Oh, that's great.
And he goes like this. He's booked that night, but not there. Y'all. This guy's like, y'all trick you with the headline. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, made you click on it. Just love that.
And then this one guy did a meme that said, "Sit down, Mark," with Punk.
Yeah, you got a CM Punk mark there. Okay, my thing about CM Punk is if he decides he ever wants to return to wrestling, he'll do it. Okay, and if he wants to do a match, he'll do it. He wants to stay in UFC, do MMA, he'll do it. And
well, he's still signed with UFC anyway.
Yeah, I heard that he's going to be doing commentary, which I think is great because he's excellent on commentary. I'd tune in just to hear him talk about a fight going on. I definitely would.
But I like how they lied about that headline. Oh, he's going to be there, but you read it and said, "Oh, he won't least likely to be there."
Fuck, man.
The reason why I hit that was I wanted to make an example. You know how everything is like clickbait nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And perfect example right there. Perfect example, Robyn. Perfect example. Now, speaking of clickbait, well, not clickbait, but if I happen to this week or the next couple weeks or next week decide to click on Wrestle Popcast, what should I be expecting in the upcoming weeks or in the future for guests?
Oh, woo! Yes, haha! I did a guest with Harley Fairfax tonight. I need to still post, so I got to send that to you. I just did one with her tonight.
Nice.
And then so far, I'm talking to different wrestlers right now. Scheduling right now. Haven't had any dates set up. I'm working on some guests right now.
Okay, that's cool. Now, what about Files 13? What anything going on in the paranormal? Because I know you've been doing a lot with Wrestling Popcast, and it's cool to see you mix it up a bit with paranormal and stuff. Anything going on with that?
I need to work on that. Yeah, I've been focusing on Wrestle Popcast a lot too. Lately, I used to focus on both of them at the same time, and pop up a lot of episodes for each one. Yeah. Lately, I've just been focused on Wrestle Popcast, and I don't know why. And I do like the paranormal. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I need to go out and start getting some paranormal guests. Yeah,
because when you do Files 13. A lot of people, you get a lot of good feedback on that. You honestly, you get a lot of good feedback on both your shows. Both your shows, you get a lot of feedback. But when I see Files 13, when you do get a feedback on that, I'm like, wow, this is great. And you get a lot of likes and repost and shares. Same thing with Wrestle Podcast. Yeah. And it's great, man, because you're out there and people love you, and you go to a lot of conventions and stuff. I got a slideshow I put up tonight right here, and it has you like with Michael Buffer, got you with the president of KZW, Mr. McGuire, JJ Hurricane, JJ McGuire, and I spoke with him recently, and there's a lot of good things coming from the prez of KZW. A lot of good things coming, especially with streaming and talent, and a lot of things to come. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Oh yes, and this and also I'll be being part of that as their ringside reporter.
Yeah, Mr. Robyn Full Nelson.
Yeah,
I love it.
No, it's Robyn Full Full Nelson. Get it right.
Okay. Don't put me through a table if I come up to KZW one at one point. if I do,
or if Dave
alone.
or if David C. Russell ever shows up.
He's off the chat. He jumped out a few minutes ago. He jumped out.
He probably got bored because we were geek talking, because he's not into all that geek stuff.
Yeah. He left as soon as I said Avengers. I'm out. Instead of Avengers assemble, Avengers disassemble. He disassembled and left.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it is. But, dude, I loved having you on tonight and just shooting the shit and just having you on and just talking about wrestling, talking about Avengers, Game of Thrones, which I think is great. What you're doing in KZW, and it's just a great time. Just a great time.
Dude, I miss Chris.
What?
Yeah, I miss Chris.
You miss Chris, yeah. Chris Carnage. I mean, he's doing Final Score with Craig. He's been tearing it up. I wanna give a shout out and congratulations for Final Score, because not only can you find Final Score now on Spotify, you can find it on Stitcher Radio. They put a post out just yesterday that they're on Stitcher Radio. You started a trend, man, because Wrestle Popcast, you started out, you're on Spreaker, and then what platform? What are the other platforms you're on now that people can hear Wrestle Popcast and Files 13?
I can tell you right now. You can follow Wrestle Podcast at Podcast City Network at podcastcity.net, and also hitting the Marks Network, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes. And you can follow me at Twitter at WPopcast1, and then Facebook at Wrestle Popcast. And you can follow me at YouTube at Robyn Nelson's Wrestle Popcast Paranormal Files 13.
Nice. I love it, man. I love it. I love all the platforms. You got them all covered. And yeah, I miss having Chris on and just chatting and talking and stuff. I know at the end of the month, I'm going to be having the KZW United States Champion, the Chris Rose, come on to discuss the Money in the Bank prediction show.
I was at a KZW not too long ago, and I met Chris Rose. He's a nice guy.
He is. He's awesome. I've had him on the podcast plenty of times on about all three different podcasts. This one here, the Everett Lee Show, Deleted Wrestling Podcast, and ELS Uncut, where he got into it with Jeremy Rage. I thought was great. Jeremy Rage.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man. I didn't expect that, man. I'm like, oh God, I got something, But Chris Rose has come on, and he's we did a WrestleMania prediction show, which I thought was great, and he's coming back towards the end of this month to do a prediction show for Money in the Bank. I want to ask you real quick here, one last thing. Money in the Bank, it don't seem like it is anymore, where talent has to earn a spot to be able to climb that ladder and take that briefcase now. They basically is like, oh, here's you have now for the match. There you go. What the hell, man? What the hell?
Dude, you have to also know, too, WWE's been dropping in ratings a lot, too.
Yeah. Yeah, they have. I actually fell asleep last night watching SmackDown. And you know when the last time I fell asleep watching SmackDown was years ago when I was sick. That's a long time ago. I fell asleep watching SmackDown because I was sick. I was watching it last night. I fell asleep during the Roman Reigns match in the B team match. I did. I was out. I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning and I thought I was like, what happened? I looked 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, son of a. I was like, I got up and went back to bed and I woke up an hour later trying to wake myself back up. And actually, I didn't even want to wake up this morning. I was sitting there trying to fix a pot of coffee, and sitting there, I got on the computer, and freaking dog and daughter wakes up, and it's just like, oh my God. So I ran to the bathroom and jumped in the shower to get away from everybody.
Oh, that's crazy.
My morning sucked.
But hey, I want to say, this was fun, man. I'm glad you invited me on and to shoot the shit.
Yeah, I loved it, man. I loved having you on. And before I close this podcast out, I want to mention that you can follow Robyn Nelson's Files 13 and Wrestle Popcast right there on the screen right there, and those listening on podcastc.net over on the Podcasting Network, your top source for independent podcasting. You can also follow Podcasting Network on Facebook, Podcasting Network, and send them a tweet on Twitter at PodcastCNet. Be sure to subscribe to the Podcasting Network on YouTube for latest content and shows uploaded on the YouTube channel. And subscribe and follow right here on twitch.tv/PodcastCityNetwork for when the Everett Lee Show, Final Score, and many other shows, part of the network, of Podcasting Network, go live. You can catch and go back and replay. But also, you could follow the Everett Lee Show.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
For more of the Everett Lee Show on social media, follow and like the Everett Lee Show on Facebook, the Everett Lee Show, Twitter, at the Everett_Lee, Instagram, Everett Lee Show. Audio versions of this podcast and previously released podcast can be found on everettleeshow.podbean.com. Stitcher Radio, The Everett Lee Show, give a rating and comment. Apple Podcast, The Everett Lee Show, give a rating and comment. YouTube, The Everett Lee Show, subscribe to the channel. The Everett Lee Show, your shot of entertainment to the head.
Robyn Nelson, thank you for coming on. We're going to hit the outro music and we're going to ride out into the sunset.
All right, take care. Good night.
All right, Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good night and a good week. We'll see you again next week for another episode of the Everett Lee Show. Peace.